telling me to ask you permission.
I'll try.
Okay. Maybe just let you do it.
It started. It's already started, the recording.
Great.
You can start.
Okay, so with apologies for this strange beginning, Noam, Ben Ami, and I have, today we're going to discuss the Mishna and Bava Kama. This is the first of all the foundation of Jewish business law starts with Bava Kama. Believe it or not, a quarter of all of the Torah's 613 mitzvot are business law. So this is a very important yesod. We have to learn this at some point. Seder Nezikin was once actually a huge mesechet. Like today, it's divided into three: Bava Kama, Bava Metzia, and Bava Batra. At one time, the Gemara itself says, "Kula Nezikin Chada Mesechtahi," that all of Nezikin was one mesechet, with 30 prakim. So each one of them now is 10 prakim. So anyway, we're starting something of fundamental importance in Judaism. This is a little akdama, a little introduction. I'll point out that the Torah commands in various places in Sefer Shemot and Sefer Vayikra, tashlumei nezek. The actual mitzvot, the commandments relate to the requirement to pay for damage that you do. Nezikin means damages or torts. So one interesting kind of point to ponder is that we don't necessarily find in the Torah an obligation to not do damage. We just find an obligation to pay for any damage that we actually do. So the commentators have all kinds of discussions trying to locate the source of the obligation not to damage. There's a view that it's v'ahavta l'recha kamocha. There's another view, lifnei iver, there shouldn't be a michshol before the blind. There's another view that it's ashavat aveda, returning a lost object. And then there's my favorite, which is the fact that the Torah commands that there be compensation for damage done itself implies that there's a prior obligation not to do any damage. So in any event, just know that that's what the source of the mitzvah has to do with various commands in the Torah to pay compensation for damage that we do. Okay, so today we're going to look at the first two Mishnayot. The first one is a critical yesod, foundation of all of business law, and then the second one will give us maybe one concrete example. It begins as follows: Arba'a avot nezikim, ashor ve'abor ve'amaveh ve'aver. So there are four avot nezikim. What is avot? Avot literally means fathers, but what it really means in
prototype
is, what's that?
Yeah, kind of prototype.
Prototype, exactly. Perfect word. Prototype. And the corresponding word with avot is toldot. So we have the prototype, and then we have derivatives. We have various examples that where we have the same din. So if you have an av, and we're going to learn those four avot, then there are various things that fall that are derived from each of those avot, and they have the exact same law as the av. So here we go. Hashor, literally that means ox, but according to Torah law, what we're talking about is any be'ema, it could be a chamor, which is a donkey, it could be anything, it could be a horse. Then we have habor, which is a pit. We have hamaveh, which is this is a bit of a controversial term. We'll have to get into that, and then we'll explain in a minute. But then hahever, that's easy. That's something that burns, like a fire, eish. So let's talk about a hashor, and we're going to get to our mystery word hamaveh in a moment. The hashor. So we have within that we actually have three further categories. There's Karen, Shane, and Regel. Karen, which means horn, as the name implies, would be like goring. It involves some kind of aggressive action by the animal that does damage. Shane, word means tooth. That basically has the halachic decisors say that has to do with hana'ah. Whenever, if an animal is eating, is the classic example of getting enjoyment or benefit, which is hana'ah. But there are other possibilities. If the animal rubs itself against the wall and the wall falls down, then it did damage through hana'ah, through shame. And similarly, we have after what was the third one now? So the screen is. Oh yeah, okay. So and regel. Sorry, so regel is the ordinary way that an animal would do damage just through its body, an animal is normally, like the name animal in English implies, like is animated, it moves. So it moves by walking and just moving forward. It could trample things. It could destroy. I mean, if the ox walks on a bed of roses, it will destroy the bed of roses. So
yeah, you can see in Bartanua, he said something more about the foot, about the regel. He say that that one thing is the regular regel, which means what it's step on it, so it smash it and it destroy it. So all the seeds are getting damaged by walking on it by the ox. So he said that also, let's say we are going through a cotton a field. So he'd say if the cotton was stuck into its hair, the animal hair, so it's also kind of stepping on it. It's like destroying the field. You see?
yeah, I do.
Or even or even the stuff that it had on its back of the ox. Also, it's considered as as part of the ox of leg. So that's what the Bartanua said. You see?
Exactly.
Sorry for
yeah. And I'll point out that everything that I'm been saying is actually I've learned all the Bartanura, and basically the explanations are all through Bartanura. But that was perfect. Thanks for showing that. Habur, that's next, right? There we are. So a bore is the pit. That's very different from the shore because a bore is completely passive. It's not moving anywhere. So if an animal gets trapped, it falls in there, and you kill the animal, now you've damaged through the bore. Interestingly enough, we're talking about, according to Torah thought, it has to be 10 tefachim. A tefach is like a fist. So 10 of those, if it's dug 10 tefachim, then you can kill it. But if it were 9 tefachim, Bartanor explains, that's not enough. You could maybe injure it, but it won't kill it. So you're not chayav.
Because it's a different reshut.
You may be chayav for the injury, but the liability discussed here is for 10 tefachim.
Yeah, it's a different reshut, also for Shabbat. 10 tefachim is a different reshut. It's something private. Now, what's important about the bow, it's a place where where many people are walking through, like in the middle of the road or in the middle of a road somewhere. So if it's belong to the multiple, it's belong to the public. It's public. You can't touch it. It's not yours. And if you touch it, even if you're not standing next to it while it's happened, you still have the responsibility for what you did.
Exactly. The Bartanor explains, if you put a stone in the rabim, the public domain, and you trip over it, that's the need for a damager. Similarly, if somebody spits and somebody slips on the spit, that's another example it gives. Okay.
Yeah.
The Mishnah is
Okay.
Hamaveh. That is a very interesting example. So we have a big machloket in the Gemara about what is meant by Hamaveh. The word itself is very unusual. So we derive from a biblical from Ovadia, Milashon Navu Mitzfunav. So basically, the idea is something to do with eating. So according to there's a machloket between Rav and Shmuel. So Bartanura goes according to Shmuel.
Yeah.
Shmuel says something involving eating. But we do have a different point of view, and that's of Rav. It's a very interesting idea. He says, no, the Maveh, and he uses a different pasuk, is Adam. It's a person. I think there's a certain elegance to that explanation. After all, the end of Masechet Bava Kama discusses a gazlan and a ganav, and that's a person who is meant to do holy things, but is actually using his free will to damage. So I could see that point of view as well. But in any event, this Mishnah, according to Bartanura, is saying that it's shame. So the first case of shore was basically bederach was walking, was damaging through, I guess it would be regel. And then we get to the Maveh, Bartanura is saying that we're talking about shame, about eating.
May I ask a question? Sorry.
Yeah, sure.
I'd like to ask if the owner of the ox is standing next to him while it's happening.
That is a really good question. So we get to that actually in the second Mishnah.
Okay.
I'll sneak ahead and I'll just tell you that one of the requirements for liability is that there be an owner. So it can't the whole mission doesn't make any sense if the victim, the one who is damaged, if let's say there's an ox an ox gores another ox, the second ox dies, but that ox, the second one that dies was hefker. It's meaningless in terms of mission because nobody could file a lawsuit. But one of the conditions for liability is that there is an owner for the ox, and that and basically the one that has liability is the one who has shmirah, who's watching over it. So the answer is yes.
Okay, the answer for all the four situations, right?
For all the four situations, we have to have ownership. We have to have ownership of the mazik.
You have to be with them while it's happening, right?
While it's happening, yeah. So again, the second Mishnah we're gonna discuss that more. But yeah.
I tell you why I'm asking, because for example, when we speak about the pit, a bow, so there are no different if he's next to him or not. He's responsible for what he did, for his digging the soil. So he's responsible even if he's not next to the pit. But the animal, for example, this ox, he must be next to him, or he's responsible for what it's doing even while he's not next to it, because he must supervise it.
Right. So he has to supervise it. So yeah, but you're saying that for the boar, you're saying that there's a distinction to be made between the
boar and the rest. Yeah. The boar, and I can say even a distinction between the first and the השור והמבעה, comparing the bow והבאר. Okay, you'll get you'll get there first, and then I think there is a distinguish between these two.
Terrific. Okay, so what are we up to? Hamaveh we were talking about. Right, and then, so yeah, there were two interpretations of Hamaveh. We discussed that. Now we have Hahever.
Yeah, that's the last one.
Fire. Right. So with the fire, that one is not passive like the boar. It is active, but it's not, the fire is not among the Bali Ratzon. So like an donkey might do damage of its own will, but a fire doesn't, but it can be moved by the wind. So this is a good example of where we could get into Av and Tolda. An Av is the fire, but something that would be have the same effect would be if you leave, let's say, a knife on the roof, and if it could be moved by the wind, by an average wind, and it falls down onto the ground and hurt somebody on the way, then that would be a tolda. That would be this fourth kind of damage, which is hever, or in this case, a derivative of hever. So the Mishnah continues. Maybe could we go back to the Mishnah? Could we go back to? Okay, so where's the Mishnah? There we go. Aha. Thank you. Lo harei ashor ke harei hamaveh. The shore, the bull, the ox doesn't manifest itself like the maveh, which is like the sheen, so in other words, regel, trampling is not the same as eating. Velo harei hamaveh ke harei ashor, and the maveh does not manifest itself like the shore. Velo ze veze sheyesh behen ruach chaim ke harei ha'esh she'ein bo ruach chaim. So saying, and those two that we just discussed, the shore and the maveh, together, they're in turn different from Eish, because Eish also can be moved, but it doesn't have Ruach Chaim, so it's not Balei Ratzon. It's not Bal Ratzon. The wind might move it, or the wind, there's no wind and it doesn't move. So, and these, the ones that we just mentioned, all three of those now, that move, that have some kind of momentum to them, they in turn are not like habor, like the pit, whose way is not to move and damage, because as we discussed, the boar is completely passive. Hatzara shaveh shebehen, the common ground between them, the common denominator, shedarkan leazik ushmiratan alecha. So what they all four have in common is as follows: they damage, and you are obligated to watch over them. If they're yours,
your responsibility.
You have to watch over them. Exactly.
Your responsibility.
And when it does do damage, you're liable, the one who does the damage, or the owner of the one that does the damage, is liable to pay the compensation for the damage with the best of the land. So what that means there, in Jewish business law, is usually a person's property is divided into three possible types. Is the idit is the best, the benonit is the medium, and then what's the third one is the gerua. I think it's the gerua. So the inferior land. Basically, you have three pieces of real estate, and one of them is really, really good. Well, you have to use the best to compensate the person who you damaged, or the halacha, we'll get into this later in Bava Kama, but it discusses other options, like you could pay for metaltalin, which is considered idit is considered always to be good because people, it's ready, it's like you could use it immediately, sell immediately. So that, whereas land sometimes takes time to sell. So there we have the basic principles. And before we go to the second Mishnah, I wanted to share a little thought because I learned this from Noam actually, that he always has just like some extra, like what's the sort of musar there? And so I saw a beautiful, and I mean beautiful interpretation from Rabbi Dr. Abraham Tversky. This alone is worth the price of admission. He says that we could look at it not just as four kinds of damagers in the physical world, but there's also a side of spiritual damage that they do. So what's the shore? Well, Noam, what's the pasuk with about Yosef Tzaddik Ale Shore, that the women went up to look at how handsome Tzaddik was?
עלי שור, בנות צעדה עלי שור.
Biduk. So you could look at shore as shore, which is looking, and what it's telling us is Shmirat Einayim is very important. You could do damage to yourself by looking at things you're not permitted to look at. It's a way of damaging. Then there's Habor. Well, that's similar. Bor is similar to Bor. Bor is an ignoramus. Somebody, and it's also very spiritually damaging because somebody who doesn't know Torah law, hasn't learned any Torah, he doesn't know what he's doing that's wrong. So he lacks Yirat Hashem. He lacks fear of God. So that's another form of damage. Third is Ma'aveh. Well, that is according to the opinion of Shmuel that is followed by Bart Nora. That's shein, eating. So we're talking about achila gasa. If you eat too much, it has a spiritually damaging side because we're supposed to eat the amount necessary to regain our strength and to serve Hashem properly. But when you eat too much, it takes you too much into the chomriyut, into the you're less osek v'torah and you're more thinking about yourself and
materialism.
And then the same thing with hever, that's fire, ish, and that represents kas. Somebody who gets angry. Well, we learn that anger is like akin to avodah zarah. It's because you have to a person understands that Hashem runs the world, doesn't get angry because Hashem decided everything. So you may not like something, it may cause you pain or grief, but anger is not something that's acceptable from a Torah point of view. So that's a little musar there, and now we'll move on to Mishnah Bet, which will be a lot
Also, I think about air that even as you mentioned that it's a type of anger. It represents the anger. It's also what's unique in the air is like a fire. Let's say we have a camp and we lit a campfire, okay? And now the wind came. It's out of control. If the wind is strong enough, it can spread all over the forest and take away few mountains even. It's exactly like the mad. When you get mad, you sometimes can get too far with your words, with your sound, with everything. So it's become very dangerous. So I saw in the books it's written that the best cure for this illness of madness is to keep on silence. Just shut up and go aside and wait till it's over. Exactly like fire. You must restrict it and say, okay, here's the stone, here's the place. You can't pass it. And I think it's very nice analog.
Great metaphor. It's a good technique. Just count to 10 or something. Very good. So we'll go down to Mishnah Bet.
Okay.
Of
course. Yes, all I need to do is to erase everything.
Yeah, that's fine. So this one's will be quick. So כל שחפתי בשמירתו, הכשרתי את נזקו. So if I'm obligated in watching something, in controlling something, then I'm responsible for its damage. It's just a very simple klal, simple rule. And we carry on here. So actually, one of the things that Harav Ovadia Mibartanura says about that is, so if you give it to somebody who's mentally incompetent, or to a child, who's, let's say, 10 years old and doesn't have responsibility, moral responsibility, legal responsibility, you didn't do anything. You're still responsible. You can't do that. Right. Whereas הכשרתי את נזקו. אם לא שמרתיו כראוי והזיק, אני הוא שהכשרתי וזמנתי אותו ואני חייב עליו. כגון המוסר שרו לחרש שוטה וקטן חייב. Like I just said, somebody gives it to a deaf mute, or somebody's mentally incompetent, or a minor, is obligated. שעליו היה מוטל שמירת שרו והרי לא שמרו כראוי.
Yeah.
Right. That's pretty simple and straightforward. But the next one is really, then he continues and says,
I can't give my 5 years old to watch his younger brothers, for example. He's too young to be.
It wouldn't work if your 5-year-old destroys your neighbor's home.
He's too young.
The 5-year-old did it. I didn't do anything. Be nice to try. But...
Okay, go ahead. You want to go back to the Mishnah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. הכשרתי במקצת נזקו, חפתי בתשלומים כהכשר כל נזקו. This is the fundamental point of this second Mishnah right here. If I'm partially responsible for the damage, then I'm obligated in the payment in entirety. In other words, it doesn't matter if somebody. Actually, here we really need to see Bartanur because he explains it very well.
Okay. Fine.
Yeah. Okay. ואם תיקנתי וזמנתי מקצת הנזק, אף על פי שלא זמנתי ותיקנתי את כולו, התחייבתי עליו כאילו זמנתיו כולו. כגון, sorry, that wasn't important. Here's the example he gives. כגון, החופר בור תשעה ברשות הרבים, ובא אחר ואימו לעשרה, ונפל שמה שור או חמור ומת, האחרון חייב. So he's saying, the example is somebody digs a pit that's 9 tfachim. And you remember we talked about the fact that it's really that you're liable for 10 tfachim, not 9. And then somebody comes along, so Reuven dug a pit of 9 tfachim, then Shimon comes along and he digs one more tefach. And then the shor or chamor falls into it and dies. It's Shimon, not Reuven, who's liable, because he finished the job. It wasn't a dangerous pit at 9 tefachim. That one extra tefach he did, that was what was damaging.
Yeah.
Perhaps we could go to the Mishna. Right. That was the key point, and we could make short work of the rest of it.
Yeah, okay. Let's go ahead for the next... yeah. I can see it now. Yeah. So, the last part of the...
Okay, Nechasim...
Right.
So, no, Nechasim.
Nechasim? Oh,
so,
yeah, you're right.
Nachon.
Okay,
so
okay.
What I stated in Mishnah Bet was the klal, and now we have Tanaim. Basically, Mishnah goes forward and lists 5 conditions for what I just said to be true. If these 5 conditions aren't operative, then the klal is not correct. So basically, nechasim she'en be'em me'ilah. We're talking about basically chulin and not hekdesh. What that means is if it has to be
assets.
Ordinary property
that
Noam or I own. It can't be temple property. If it's the property of the Beit HaMikdash, well, we all have a chelek in that, so that doesn't count. And it's derived. I won't take you through the Bartanura for this because it gets technical, but it's derived from a pasuk in the Torah. Nechasim. The second condition is nechasim shel bnei brit. Basically, that's simple. It has to be from a Jew. It doesn't apply to the property of a non-Jew. The third condition is nechasim hamiyuchadim. Okay, so that is it has to be the property of the owner of the mazik. Okay, and then v'chol makom chutz mirshuta miyuchad.
What kind of miyuchadim?
So that has to be like at the proper. I think it has to be at the nechasim miyuchadim. Let's take a look at yeah, that's good. Thank you. נכסים.
Here, שיש להם בעלים מיוחדים, שאם מזיק נכסים של הפקר פטור.
Oh, right, wait. So basically, right. So it can't be hefker, as it is saying. It has to be an owner.
Yeah.
It has to be specific to a person.
Someone who demands the damage. Someone demand the damage. Someone sue you for what you did to him. If it's healthcare, so no one will sue you. So you are kind of patur.
Right. That's what I was saying before. Nobody could sue you if it's healthcare. So the issue is we're talking about that it's the meyuchadim means that it belongs to somebody.
Belongs to somebody, yeah.
To the damager that is we're referring to the mazik and not the nizak, meaning the damager and not the damaged. So and it can't be in the so saying chutz mirshuta hamiyuchedet, it can't be the mazik. It can't be let's say Reuven has an ox and it gores the ox of Shimon. Where does it happen? It happens in Reuven's home. So Reuven is putur. He doesn't have to pay anything because what was Shimon doing with his ox in Reuven's home? He has no right to be there. He had no reshut. So this is chutz mirshuta miyuchedet lemazik. So if it takes place in the property of the mazik, then he's not liable. But if you look at the notes, as I did, there is an exception to this, which is if Shimon if Reuven invited Shimon, meaning if Shimon says, you owe me money for the work I did in your backyard, I'm here to collect my debt. And then Reuven says, come right in, no problem. So he comes in, he's waiting there with his ox. All right, then his ox gets gored. Now he's chayav, according to the Shulchan Aruch. Then we get the last case, the fifth condition, which is reshut hanizak ve'amazik. So now if we have a reshut meshutefet, which is to say a common area that they both live in the same courtyard. Now in that case. And we're talking about, this gets a little technical, we're talking about in a case of Shane or Regel, it doesn't apply to Karen. Then we're also Patur. Can we go down to Bartanura? I want to make sure I'm not stumbling over myself and saying it correctly.
Right.
Okay. Reshut hamiyuchedet nizak u'mezik. Kegon, here's his example. Chatzer shel shnehem ve'izik shoro shel אחד מהם באותה חצר בשן ורגל, patur, like I was saying. So an example of they have a yard, the two of them are sharing a yard. And one of the ox of one of them gores damages rather. So sorry, shorosh shel echad mehem be'ota chatzer b'shen v'regel patur. So if there's damage there, it's patur. Ve'u tiyeh ota chatzer miyuchedet l'shvarim gamken. This is an interesting detail that the Gemara brings up. But
it's
it
like if it
only
was
applies if the ox has a right to be there. Because it could be that Noam and I have a chatzer, but the rules say we could only have produce there. We're not allowed to bring in our oxes. We could only, bring in our grapes.
yeah.
About however, if it was designated for produce and not for oxes, like I
Fruit.
was saying, bashin v'regel, and it did damage either through eating or ana'ah or regel by trampling,
Yeah.
it's chayav. He's liable. The imezik bekeren beholinian chayav. But it doesn't matter with Karen, like I was saying correctly earlier, because Karen, this rule doesn't apply. It doesn't, whether it's meshutefet or not meshutefet. He's chayav.
Yeah.
So
That's
I wanted to conclude on this. This is my own thought actually, which is really the principle here is, it was stated in the beginning. If you have if somebody dug something, 9 tefachim, but then if you dug something 9 tefachim, and then I come along and I add one more tefach, and now we have this tremendous damage because an animal went through and was killed, it's completely my responsibility. I'm liable fully. And I was thinking about that it reminded me of the famous Rambam in Hilchot Shuvah. It says a person has to imagine himself like the world is half chayav and half bitzada.
Zachai.
What?
Right. Half right and half chayav and half zachai.
What was the word?
I said half zakai. It means
zakai,
right.
Innocent. Sorry, yeah,
Right,
innocent or guilt. Thank you.
Yeah, innocent.
Right. So we're divided between. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word in Hebrew, but
no,
when you told
okay.
me, then I realized. So yeah, we're divided equally between innocence and guilt. That Rambam tells us, imagine that the whole fate of the world depends on the action we take, and I think that that's the example from the Mishnah too. So if you're careless, if you're not thoughtful in the way you manage your property, your possessions, with one little act, you could do so much damage. And Tzad Tov, I thought of this as well. In these strange times, we now have our minyanim on our balconies here. If I'm coming out a few minutes late, we have 9 people, and I'm number 10. So but I could actually now do Kodesh, 10th person. You could also do tremendous good with the little thing you do. I mean, there are 9 people there. That's not the minyan, but I come out last. Now I have a minyan. I'm mashlim a minyan. So we could really, a little thing we could do can have tremendous effect. And that was my concluding thought.
Yeah, it said that the one who come the last, the 10th one who come to the minyan, so he is getting the rewards for all the rest. It's exactly the same. It's because he's the one who brings the Shekhinah. He's the one who is creating the 10th. Now, if one of the 10 is leaving the shul or wherever, so he's like he's like expelling the Shekhinah. He's like saying it's like he's the one who how do we say it? Doche. He's like resilient, the Shekhinah. Doche, like
he's pushing it away. He's pushing it away.
Yeah. He's pushing.
Repelling it.
Repelling. Yeah. It's interesting.
So that's right. So let us all remember, everything we do counts.
Of course.
Thank you.
Of course. Okay. Should I stop the recording?
Yeah.